And welcome back to CG Jam. We have returned after a short hiatus of, well, it's been a couple of years. Last thing we were looking at was Blender 2.8. That has now come and gone. It is obsolete, and Blender 3.0 has just dropped on our doorstep with a whole bunch of new updates, features, and many things of interest. And the thing we're going to be looking at today is the asset browser, which is a new feature of Blender, which is really handy. Previously, we would have to link and append objects from another Blender file, whereas now we can just assign assets and pull them in directly from whatever file we're working from. And to show you how that works, let's get started. The asset browser, it has its own window. So if we just create a window, go to the window options, and you can see here there's an asset browser. Just click that and there we are. As you can see, it's empty. There's nothing in there by default. We have to set this up, and we can do that from our preferences. If we go to edit and preferences, down here on file paths, we can see we have a file linking into a library that we can use, or we can just simply define ourselves a new file path by clicking the plus icon, and it brings us into our file browser. Select the drive that we want, and I want to put these in the folder with my Blender files, so I'm going to select that, and I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this assets, nice and simple, at the top of my list. So now we've got our asset folder. All these other assets that we had previously in their own folders can be transferred into that folder, but we're not going to do the whole thing today. We are just going to focus on maybe a few sci-fi things and maybe some plants and rocks, just to give you an idea of how everything is set up. So we've got our folder. We're going to click Add Asset Library, and there's our file path down there. Now we need to give it a name, and we're going to call this one Main Library. Enter, there we go, and click here, save preferences, and that's set into all our assets. Now the thing we need to do is add the assets to our library, and we can't do that from a blank screen unless we wanted to add a default cube to our library. We won't do that because that's kind of lame. So let's first open up a new Blender. I'm going to open up this sci-fi pack. It's called Tech Builder Lite, which I downloaded several years ago from blendswap.com, modeled by Chris Kuhn under CC attribution. So I will put a link to this file on BlendSwap in the description down below. So now we need to turn it into an asset pack. And for that, we need to select only what we want as an asset. So we're going to get rid of all this grid thing that he's put in. And we can just X delete, get rid of that text, X delete. And now we have all these objects. So we need an outliner. So let's create a new window. Okay, so he's got his header at the bottom. So technically a footer then. So we're going to choose the outliner, and there's all the things in our asset pack over here. So we'll just press A to select all. Now everything is selected. We can right click on the outliner, right click, and down here we have mark as asset. So we do that and we get this little icon. Blender glitches a little bit until it's got everything figured out. Don't worry about that, as long as it doesn't crash, that's fine. So now we need to save this file as it is. Control Shift S, and that will bring up, and then we want to select our asset file. We can save it there, rename it just to differentiate it from the original file. So techbuilderlite _.blend, enter, and save as. And now that should be saved into our asset file. And if we go back to our original file here, where we remember we had nothing down here, we can go select the main library, and then all our assets are nicely organized into this asset file. However, everything is all under one thing, and it makes that difficult just to select a certain genre of items. As you can see, we've got these pipes, we've got these trusses, we've got gaskets, we've got machine parts, array types, more machine parts, boxes and things, and they're all mixed in together. So what we want to do ideally is take all these parts, put them in their own subheadings. So so I shall do that now. And we need to go back to our Tech Builder file, and you can see the file path is Blender Files Assets and Tech Builder Lite Assets, so we're working on the right file. And now let's open up another window and we'll swap this. Remember, it's at the bottom in this particular file. We'll open up the asset browser. We don't actually need these windows, we're just going to work on the assets. Okay, so first thing we want to do to organize ourselves is where it says all, we're going to go main library, that's important. Then under all, we're going to click this plus, I'm going to choose catalog, rename, and call this sci-fi. Press enter, and you can see it's all empty again. So we go back to all, and we can drag, if we can find an edge, drag and select all of these. Move assets to catalog sci-fi. So now they are in the all, and they're also in the sci-fi, which, okay, that's fine. File save, file edit, file, oh, it's come up for some reason. So we'll save that as it is, and that little star next to the sci-fi title has gone. Now, this is where we start to organize them a little bit better. So we'll go plus, and that gives us a subcatalogue, and we're going to rename this one as trusses. Go back to sci-fi, and with control pressed down, we are going to simply select all the truss work, low poly, high poly, basic truss, antenna, anything else that we think can go into that file, and then just drag them all into the assets catalog trusses. There we go, that's done that. They stay in the main folder because that's inclusive. You can have assets in more than one folder. Sci-fi, another plus, rename it to pipes, and we'll do the same with this. Hold down control, select the pipes. That looks like a pipe even though it's a truss. 5-pipe, multi-pipe, staggered 5-pipe. That looks good. Any more pipes? Anything else that looks like a pipe? And I think we're good for pipes, so we will just simply drag those into the pipes. And we can do this by, when we add more and more assets, we can drop them into these folders. So now we need to save those. File, save, and we'll do one more. Call this one, rename it. We'll call this one machine parts. Go back to the sci-fi, and we want everything that looks machiney. So a coil array, connector block, another connector block, coolant tank, one of them. These are all electrical fittings. We'll ignore them. We'll have, oops, no, control, not shift. So coil array, that thing, a hex pod, cable box, bits, a junction box, one of them, that thing, tube cap and a weapons pod, chuck in a couple of gaskets, they're useful, a couple of boxes, blank plates, all things that could be considered machinery parts. Okay, that'll do me for that. We'll just drag those over to me machine parts, drop them in, and we can then file save. Okay, so now they're saved, we can reduce that, and if we refresh the main library, okay, that's not worked how I wanted. Does this sometimes, it takes a while, so let's close down that one, reopen Blender, and let's open up asset browser again. It should have worked, hopefully, if we've done it right. No, why? Okay, something's wrong. Current file, main library. There we go. You just need to reopen Blender to update the additional things. So there's all our machine parts, there's all our pipes, and there's all our truss work. Brilliant. Okay, that's how you add subfolders to your assets. Okay, so let's add one more quickly, and then we can close it down, finish up, and you can make a start on doing your own assets. So let's go open a new Blender. Go file, open, project, Blender files, plants and rocks, and plants and rocks blend, open. So this file was originally from the Blender Foundation, a short movie with Frank the Sheep. It was Cosmos Laundromat. That was a few years ago. There's been a few more since then, but we have all these assets that we've downloaded from the Blender Foundation. Free to use. Thank you very much. So first thing I want to do is get rid of all the superfluous things that we don't need. So if I scroll down the outliner, find all the text, click that, and shift select that, right click, and delete all the text. I can click that and press X to delete it. It's ground plane, it's just a ground plane, boring, delete. It's empty, X, delete. Camera, X, delete. Okay, now I can select all of this, or even simply just press A. That collects everything from all the collections, and we can right click, mark as asset, bang, bing bonged, and we file, save as. We don't want to save over the original file, that's never a good idea. So we go to our recent files, assets. You can see our Tech Builder Lite asset is there, so we can simply rename this again. If the thing will let me, come on, just there. Oh my god. Plants and rocks underscore asset and save as. Now that is another asset. Keep hold of that for a second. Just close it down. Now if we refresh our main page, go to all, as it updates, we can now see, hopefully, yes, here we go. We have the branches and things from our nature plants and rocks. We've even got Frank the sheep in, whole bunch of stuff. So now do the same again. We'll call this one nature, enter. Oh no, we're doing it in the wrong one. Quit that. No, delete catalog. So we need to just go back to our asset. Okay, so we need to open assets, plants and rocks assets blend. Open that guy. Default one, there we go. Okay, so we've got a... Okay, so we don't need this page, we need the asset browser, so we will change that. So now we've got everything down under all. So let's create a new catalog. Call this one nature. There we go, press A on the screen to select all, and we can drag all of those into nature. Okay, so if we click nature, now we have everything here. And now we can do the subgenres just as we did before. Click X, click the plus, rename it to, let's say, sticks to start with. Go back to nature. Now we can take all these sticks off the top just by dragging. Those are grass, and the sticks end there. Drag those into sticks. Nature plus, rename to rocks. We just drag and select all the rocks, and we can, once they're selected, just drag them into our rocks folder. Okay, so I will finish this off screen, and then we can finish up. Let's just save that file, save, because we're saving directly into the asset file. And now when we open up our original file, or if we refresh the main library, and there we go. We didn't even have to reload Blender, and they're in there already. So there's all our rocks, there's all our sticks, and I will go ahead and fix these up off camera, and we can see the finished product. And then we'll move on to what we're going to be doing next week. So give me 1 second of your time. So now we've done that, we've got our subgenres, our nature in our plants. We've got bushes, grasses, leaves, rocks. We've got rocks and pebbles. So now we can just start dragging things into our scene. Dragging a rock. It's a tiny rock. And this is what we're dealing with. Sci-fi. Let's a blank plate. Let's drag that in. That sticks directly onto our 3D cube. And we can do that as many times as we want. Stick that there. Stick that there. All sorts of things. We can obviously move them around as we need to, but stick a cargo door in there. Lovely. Stick a bit of a thing there, a coolant tank on the side, lovely. Connector block over there, yeah, all sorts of things going on. We can just throw things in and start making our scene just look a little bit more interesting. There's our rocks. We'll start dumping those on. Oh, that's a tiny rock. Scale it up a bit. Turn it round, ready. There we go. And we can use all these assets just to build into our scene, as we can see. Okay, lovely job. So from here we will be moving on into building up our own asset packs as we go through modeling and creating, and in time we will build our library into a substantial box of stuff that we can use. So moving on from this, we will be starting a project and working through it from start to finish. That is, we will be doing the concept art and going right through to a finished project, hopefully, without too much headaches, but with the understanding that this is a one-man show and we have to accommodate that and take render times, etc., into consideration when doing our thing. So we will be looking for cheats and workarounds to make our time easier. So if you want to support this channel, we do have a Patreon page where we happily grateful for any small amounts that you might be prepared to hand over. In the meantime, good luck, and we will see you in the next episode, which hopefully won't be too long away. Good night and sweet dreams, I guess.